Boatman, one of the most popular tunes out there in the jams in the Mountain Dulcimer scene, hammer dulcimer scene, fiddle scene, the largely Americana folk scene and old-time traditional scene, if you will. Great tune, and it's going to kick us off for the month of April here on Dulcimerica. Thank you for joining me. My name is Bing Futch, and we are going to be studying some great tunes for beginner, intermediate, and advanced level students, as well as all skill levels. And there's an extra bonus because April 2022 has got 5 Fridays, so we've got 5 episodes coming to you this month. Going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to kick off with Boatman. Boatman is one of the first songs I learned when I started playing in the Mountain Dulcimer community. It's a great tune, it's an easy tune, and you can download the tablature for this music from the link right down here below. Let's see what we got going on here. First of all, we are in DAD tuning, and we are playing in the key of D. So on the music, you'll see that there are 2 sharps on the staff, F sharp and C sharp. Also, as you're looking through the music, notice that we've got repeat symbols, and that's going to indicate if you see a repeat symbol at the beginning of a measure, look for another set of repeat symbols at the end of a measure, and we're going to play everything in between those. They're like little bookends. We're going to replace everything in between those, or play everything in between those twice, and then move on. So if you look at measure 1, and then look at measure 4, you'll see that those 4 measures have the repeat symbols on either side there. So go ahead and play those 4 measures twice. Then we move into measure 5, and you see there's no repeat symbols going on there, so we're going to be playing measures 5 through 12 as written. And then we get to the second page, and we've got some repeat symbols there at measure number 13, and then measure number 20 at the very, very end, the last measure, has got repeat symbol there. So we're repeating everything between measure 13 and measure 20. Now this is in the chord melody style. That means that we're playing chords the whole time that we're doing the tune. But because we are playing our melody on the melody string, and because it's the highest pitched note in every chord that we play, that note is going to ring out and you'll be able to very clearly follow the melody even though we're playing simply chords. That's kind of a neat little trick. Make sure your melody is the highest pitched note in your chord. So let's go ahead and start off here. It's a little bounce back and forth between G and D. So we have a 3-3-5 L-shaped G major chord, going down to a 0-0-4 D major chord. So it's going to be all right. So since we're in 4/4 time, we've got a half note at the end of each measure. We got 2 quarter notes, so it's 1, 2, and then 2 beats for the half note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that little walk down that we're doing from the 0-0-4, then we're doing 2-0-2, 1-0-1, and then open. We're just riding the outside strings, and it just gives us, because we're playing the same note on the bass string that we're playing on the melody string. You know, we're playing F sharp here, we're playing E here, we're playing double Ds here. So it's a nice way of sort of reinforcing that cool little line as we walk down. Okay, that's the first time through that little deal. Then we'll go through it again. Okay, so there's G, D, G, D, G, D. The chord stays D, and then we walk down. And now we reach measure number 5. This will take us to the end of the first page. So there's our half note, 1, 2, a couple of quarter notes. Make a whole note chord here, right? Measure 7, half note, couple of quarter notes, another whole note. Going to have 4 beats all the way through that chord there. That's B minor. Then we go back to what we call credits. I discovered this when I was playing at a festival up in Altamont, New York, the Old Songs Festival, that if you learn a piece of music that has a refrain or a phrase that is repeated somewhere else in the piece, since you've already learned it, you don't have to learn it again, right? That's called credits. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So we have some credits coming up here, measure 9. It's basically, these next 2 measures, a repeat of our first 2 measures. Now, measure 11, we're going to walk this L-shaped chord up a little bit. So we have our 3-3-5 G major, 2 quarter notes, and we're going to move up to A major, 4-4-6.5. Our L-shaped chord moving up. And now we're going to let go of the bass string and play 0-5-7. That's going to give us D major. We're going to bounce down to 0-4-6.5. It's going to give us a partial A major chord, not a full A major, but it's real nice. The little harmonies we've got going on here. Come back up to D major, 0-5-7, and that is a half note. I'm going to go back now and play the entire first page of the Boatman. Follow along with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. Measure 5. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. All right, we've got the first part of the song done. We're halfway through. Go ahead and shake your hands out. Always a good idea if you're working really hard on a piece of music to get those pinkies and those other fingers moving around so we can play longer. All right, let's go on to the second page now and take a look at measure number 13. Now we've got some counting going on here, and if you're not familiar with dotted notes, I'll give you a little crash course on how to figure out what's going on. So far, all of our rhythms have been pretty straight, but now we've brought in this dotted rhythm. And a dot, when you see a dot next to a note, basically it means that we are adding half of the value of that note to itself. We're extending that note by half of its own value. So that dot can go next to half notes, quarter notes, 8 notes, 16th notes, and it's just a kind of a way of changing where we're landing when it comes down to playing and moving through certain rhythms. If we're playing right on the beats, typically we've got a nice strong beat relationship that propels us through a piece. But sometimes it's really interesting to bring in what we call syncopation, which is focusing a little bit on the off beats, the weak beats, not the strong ones, to give us more of a loosey-goosey feel when it comes down to our strumming patterns and our rhythm. So the dot, once again, adding a dot to a note adds half of the value of that note to itself. Let's consider the quarter note, for example. One quarter note, if we were to split it in half, there'd be 2 8th notes. So a dotted quarter note would last for a total of 3 8th notes, the 2 8th notes that are inside the original quarter note, and the additional 8th note that we've added. So you can say that we would be playing this dotted quarter note for a beat and a half. Well, playing and trying to count a beat and a half might be a little weird for you. To go 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, it would mess up your rhythm a little bit. So you can actually do a couple of things. One way to do it, and I think the easiest way to do it, is doing something called pulsing. And I came up with this to help me figure out all of these different types of rhythms with these dots and these ties and the weak beats becoming prominent. Pulsing basically takes the lowest unit of rhythmic measurement that you have in the measure and uses that as a subdivision to pulse through the measure. Let's go ahead and take a look at measure number 13. First of all, we know that we've got 4 beats to a measure, and the quarter note gets the beat in 4/4 time. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarter notes. Now, if we were to split every one of those quarter notes in half, we'd get 2 eighth notes for every quarter note. So we'd have 8 eighth notes in one measure. So if we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, we can't necessarily go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That wouldn't work out. What do? Well, we're going a beat and a half, beat and a half, beat and a half. So instead of saying and a half, just say and. 1 and. 1 is the original downbeat of the measure, but instead of lasting for a whole beat, it's only going to last for an eighth note, and then there's going to be another eighth note next to it. That's called and. 1 and. Then we go to the next quarter note, cut it in half, 2 and. Next quarter note, 3 and. And then finally, the last quarter note split in half, 4 and. So what we had before was 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to break all of those up now into pairs of eighth notes, and we're going to count it like this. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. Every number is a beat, but we're not playing it for the whole quarter note. We're playing it a little bit shorter so we can squeeze another eighth note in there. 1, 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. If we were to clap through that, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now let's apply that to this first measure on page 2. Measure number 13. We've got our first chord, that G major there, 5, 6, 7. We can see that we have a half note, clear note, and a stem flying off of that clear note. So that's going to be 2 beats. We're holding out for 2 beats, 2 quarter notes basically. So if we know there are 2 eighth notes inside of every quarter note, that means there are going to be 4 eighth notes inside of this half note. So let's clap our hands 4 times to account for all of those eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't use the and count this time. It's important for us to just kind of count sequentially. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how long we are hanging out with that downbeat of measure 13. Let's take a look at the dotted quarter note. We did the math on this already. We know that we've got 2 eighth notes inside the quarter note, and the dot is going to add another eighth note. That's 3 eighth notes, which means 3 claps, 1, 2, 3. Finally, we've got an eighth note all by its lonesome. How do we know? It's a black note. It's got a stem, but it also has a flag flying off of the stem. 1 flag means an eighth note. 2 flags means a 16th note. In this case, we're dealing with just the eighth note. That's 1 clap by itself. We want to use the unit of the smallest unit of rhythmic measure. And in measure number 13, the smallest note duration we have is the eighth note. And so that is what we need to use in order to count all the way through the measure. So let's review. We've got a half note. That's 4 claps, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 eighth notes inside there. Dotted quarter note, 3 eighth notes, 3 claps, 1, 2, 3. And then finally, we have an eighth note by its lonesome, just 1 eighth note, 1 clap. So 4, 3, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. Every single time I move to a new note event, I'm going to clap a little bit louder so I can hear very clearly when these things are moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now let's take it in context with the melody. Bum, 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 dum, dum, dum. So we're moving this fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, dum, bum, 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 bum. So if that's our pace, just straight quarter notes. Bum, 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 bum. That means subdivision is going to sound like this. Bum, 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 bum. That's our eighth note pace, our subdivision rate for the measure. So 4, 3, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dum. So 1. So if we play that in the span of that space, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. One note by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and that, well, 7 by itself there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to keep speeding it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 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 so forth and so on. What we end up with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, it sounds like this. It's a very odd feeling, isn't it? It just kind of moves a little weird. It's not on the money. It's a little shifted sideways from the money, right? So let's put it in context with the 14th measure and hear how the whole thing sounds together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me go all the way to that C major there, 6, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and. So you can see how it fits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and going down to measure 15 now. From measure 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. See how that fits in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if you do it enough times over and over again, you'll start to feel the rhythm as you count through. It's just one of my favorite ways of getting through passages that are a little tricky, and you will run into these a lot using the pulsing technique. So coming to measure 17, we hold that G major again. Measure 19, got those 8 notes in there. And then we repeat everything on the second page. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll repeat and take it from the very, very top. This is the first time through page 2. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the beginning. All right, now that we've got our fingers on the chord melody style, the melody, the chords, harmony, and the basic rhythm, Now we're going to go ahead and play through some more and see what else we can do to kind of keep this thing rocking along. When I first played it, you noticed that I was doing a lot more, maybe not a lot more, but I was doing more than is written in the music. And a lot of that is stuff that I added as an afterthought, rhythmically, to keep things moving along. I didn't want to write that stuff down in the music because it can be a little confusing to figure out exactly what the melody is, what the rhythm parts are. I didn't want to make things too complicated. So now that you actually can see where the melody and the harmonies and things are, let's go ahead and talk about bringing those other elements in. Basically speaking, any piece of music you play, the melody is king, and every piece of music has its own distinctively unique rhythmic fingerprint. That fingerprint, that rhythm comes from the melody. The melody provides that. And so if we just give one strum per melody note, we will be floating with the rhythm of the melody, and our strums will suit the song. What happens, however, when we get into a clear note? If that melody is sustaining for a little bit longer than a beat and a half or 2 beats, my personal frame of reference for this is whenever there's a clear note, or more than a beat and a half, a dotted half note, or a dotted quarter note is enough for me to be thinking about this. If the melody is hanging out for longer than a beat and a half, I will do a little counter melody or a counter rhythm someplace else just to sort of keep things going. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to dance to this sort of thing if you have all of these pauses in the music due to the melody sustaining. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to play this straight, and then I'm going to add a little bit of extra strumming action where I feel it needs a little assistance, and just see what the difference is. This is no additional strums whatsoever. What we have there is a very good presentation of the song as it stands. I don't know I would want to dance to that though, because it seems like sort of a demonstration of a tune, but it doesn't have any sort of life going on there. It just needs a little something to put us in a dancing mood. So, I'm going to play it again, and this time I'm going to just add a little something to keep things going. Here we go. Now that'll get your head fake going. That'll make you want to move your butt, right? That's fun, a contra dancing tune all of a sudden. So, what is all this extra stuff I'm doing to make it do that? There's a lot of stuff going on in there, but the one basic thing that I'm doing is adding a little bit of extra fill-in strums when the melody chills out. Let me slow it down and let's just see them where they pop up, right? We'll start from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's our first one. I'm playing on the bass string. That little bass note I played there, the open bass string, that's not in the music at all. So what am I doing? What is that? Well, let's look down at the music. Let's play our 3, 3, 5 twice. And then we have a half note, big clear note there. That's 2 beats. We're hanging out there for 2 beats. That's a lot of time. That's an eternity in the dance music world. So what I'm doing is I am basically playing that melody note, that stacked chord, D major 004. I am playing it not for a half note. It will last 2 beats for sure. But I'm playing it basically as a quarter note. And then I'm adding a D quarter note on beat number 4. So we play that again. It was real subtle. Here we go. Okay? I do that just 1 beat on 4, 1 note, the bass note, because it's holding down the basement for our chord and holding down the root for our chord here. So here we go again. Okay, now notice that in the 3rd measure, there is no room to be putting anything in there. It's all a quarter note. So the melody doesn't need my assistance at that point, but it does need it again in measure 4 because we've got a half note at the very end. So watch this. There it is again, 1 quarter note on beat number 4. And again, we're just trying to keep things sort of moving, but we don't want to do that on the melody string because that would double up the melody and it wouldn't sound right. So we're using the bass string, and sometimes we're also using the middle string for our counterpoint. Just not our melody, because we don't want to keep adding rhythm to the melody. It'll jumble things up and make things not as good as they could possibly be. Okay, now let's take a look at our next section and look at all of these clear notes. My goodness, we've got a whole big, measure number 6 is a big old whole note. That needs a lot of assistance. So let's see what's going on here. From measure 5 to measure 12. Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to add on beat 2 a little bit of bass counterpoint. That's it, just 1 beat. That's all we're going to do. Wide open space here. I can do a lot in there. I don't want to do too much. How is this song feeling? What's the basic rhythm I've been doing already? And what can I add that's similar that will not stick out and seem like it came from a different song altogether? What's going to work in there? So we're going to go. Just a little dum da dum. I'll do it one more time and then I'll put it in context. And now I'll go to the next part. Now there you see we have a nice perfect matching set of what's going on there. What is that? What is going on there? Well, first of all, we are in measure 6 and we need to do something. So we hit our 004. There's our little bass note that we've been doing for half notes, but we still have some other beats to cover, so I'm going, just adding a couple more 8 notes. That's all that's going on there. We have our 1 quarter note and then a couple of 8 notes to fill in the rest of our measure. It just keeps things moving right along. So I think that there are sometimes there's an idea that fill-in rhythms means all the time. Always have something that you're filling in on a tune. And what I'm really hearing from music is only fill in when it's required or necessary. And of course you can always fill in, because if that's what you want to do, you should do it. But if you want to create a nice danceable tune for a group of cloggers or whoever else might be out there dancing to your music, it's good to kind of keep that beat moving forward, so there's always something to latch on to move your body and shake your body around. And so throw in those extra beats typically when there's not a lot of rhythmic motion taking place in the melody. And your biggest clue there is going to be when that melody becomes either a half note or a tied note or a dotted note, anything lasting longer than a beat and a half. 2 beats, 3 beats, 4 beats, and onwards. If you're holding a nice long Barbra Streisand or Donna Summer kind of sustain that lasts for like 12 measures, you're going to have to do something and your dulcimer is not going to sustain a note for 12 measures, unless it's an electric or something. But you can still do something for those 12 measures. Okay. Let me go back on through measure number 5 into 12 with the extra beats that I'm putting in only when required. Here we go. So there, we didn't really have a whole bunch of space to do much, except for the last, on beat 3 of measure 9, on beat 3 of measure 10, nothing available in measure 11, it's a crowded space, and then measure 12, beat 3 as well. Now let's move over to the second page. Now this is also a matter of artistic license, I guess. Even though I'm teaching this at the beginner level, you'll know, for example, when you go to a jam somewhere, that oftentimes the Mountain Dulcimers get simplified versions of tunes. And what I try to avoid doing is teaching those simplified tunes, because then later on, as your skills get better, and then maybe you know this song and you've never heard it anywhere else, it's always a possibility, you could show up and play this tune in the jam and they'll be like, whoa, where are all the notes? So I like teaching those notes as much as possible. And the Boatman is one of those tunes that sounds good no matter what you do. But some people play it very, very simply, and other people throw in notier versions, I guess you could say. That typically happens here in the B part. Let me play it as written, doing very, very simple rhythms, and then I'm going to play it again a little bit differently. So we start off here with our right? Starting off with our half note. What have we been doing? We've been coming over to the bass string. So I'm going to do something, instead of thinking about it right off the bat, I'm going to play through the A part, and I'm just going to come storming into the B part and see what happens. If I stare at it for too long, my muscle memory goes away. You ever had that happen to you? It's kind of strange. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm doing is, so we've been playing it like, okay, that is the melodic rhythm. So you can break that up with, which could translate into, and you can see how things rhythmically begin to get a little bit more complex. I like to come at it this way. So I am doing a little bit of fill in on the bass and middle string, but I am also adding a little bit of extra strumming, a little bit of extra rhythm to the melody. That's making it notier. Is it way outside the spectrum of what this song is? No, because I've heard a lot of people play this tune very, very more sophisticated, more complex than the way it's written on the music here. So it's up to you how you want to play it. But I do like doing this sort of a... And notice I am still coming over and getting those bass and middle strings in for these little pops of counterpoint that come in. Right? Sometimes I won't come back in with that. I really want there to be this sort of sense of finality at the end of a deal, you know? And then from there, instead of going, you know, and coming in with that bass, coming in like this. And just full stop, don't do anything else at the end of the tune. It's almost like a reset, and then, bow, get right back into the song again. So you can kind of have some fun with that. And if you play it like that, that's going to dovetail fine with, in fact, if one group plays and another group plays, they will sound awesome together because you're not playing the same thing, but you're playing roughly the same stuff. You're playing the same sorts of melodies and chords and harmonies, but you're also playing a slightly different rhythm, which is going to be creating some polyrhythms. And polyrhythms when you have multiple rhythms going on at once. And it sounds complex and weird, but it also sounds awesome and full if everybody's not playing the same thing. So be encouraged to find your voice, find your rhythm, find your groove with any of these tunes, and then play them. You don't have to play them exactly like your neighbor, but definitely explore what you can do with a little bit of extra strumming so that if you are the only person playing, somebody will still want to get down to what it is that you are all about. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As I mentioned, April is going to be a month full of 5 episodes with these song demonstrations, the tablature, and an extra bonus feature. That's right. Once you've learned the tune, if you want to have a lot of fun with them, from the link that I've sent you to down here on Patreon, you can also download backing tracks to go with this piece. And the music that you're looking at has got some suggestions on things you can do. It tells you how long the track is, the style of the track, tells you how long it is and how many times it's going to repeat, and also suggests some little things you can try with the backing track. There's a lead dulcimer track that will show you how I play it. And then I'll also be doing other stuff, exploring and all that. And you can decide to do that, or you can ignore it all. You can simply play the chords. You can improvise and just play a melody. You can do whatever you like over the second track, which is just the backing band. And you can do anything you like against that. And all of the tunes I teach this month are going to have this backing track. In fact, they're all coming from my Mountain Dulcimer in the Band book series, and this one can be featured, or found rather, in book number 1. So please do download all of this stuff, have some fun with it, and then when you get to the jam, you'll be ready to have quite the experience. Thanks again, everybody. I'll be back next week with another great tune for our intermediate level and anybody else who'd like to join. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.